Good morning, guys. Happy Tuesday and welcome into WagerTalk TV. This may or may not be our last Puck Time show of the year. I'm Andrew McGinnis and I have Carmine Bianco, my partner in crime, with me as usual to break down today's game featuring the Florida Panthers and Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, this game will be back in Vegas, Carm. It is game 5. What are you thinking here in this one?
Man, it's been a lot more lopsided than I would have hoped. You want to see more games, Andrew, but we're just not seeing it. Vegas has, no, I was going to say, arguably, been the best team in all 4 games. They've been the best team in 3 of them, and they're probably the better team in that 4th one because the analytical numbers, when we talked about it in game 3 with Florida winning, were even pretty much. The high danger chances were pretty much even, separated by 1 or 2 high danger chances. The XG numbers were even, pretty much bang on. It's just the Knights are just playing some unbelievable hockey. They're staying out of the box. They're playing very disciplined hockey, man. They deserve to win the cup. Would I like to see a game 6? Of course I would. You know what I mean? Who wouldn't? We'd want to see a game 6 and a game 7, but it's tough to get past this team, man. This team is playing so well, man. You got to give it to them. What they've gone throughout the season, some injuries, obviously goaltending, Aiden Hill stepping in there and just stopping what is thrown at him. It's sad that this could be our last show of the season because we're not going to do a recap show. There's nothing to recap. We know what we've seen, man. But other than that, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go out hopefully with some friends, catch the game tonight. I'm going to be cheering for. I'm going to treat it kind of like the Super Bowl. I've got a bunch of props and stuff and things we'll discuss on the show. But it's a shame that it could end tonight. But we get to see Lord Stanley, hosted by a bunch of Canadians that are on that team, Andrew. I'm putting it out to you because, dude, I'm not going to say you troll people. You don't troll people, but you know how to instigate conversations on Twitter. I'll give you that much. It's completely different than trolling. I'll say that. It's completely different than trolling, but you know how to get under people's skin so you at least get a conversation going. Like, well, the least penalized team is not going to win this one. And the team who knows how to dive is. It's kind of like me when I talk about the World Cup, about these guys rolling around on the ground like they got shot by snipers. And then they bring out the Italian magic spray, which is it's basically a keyboard cleaner, that spray that cleans it. They spray it onto your ankle, and all of a sudden your broken ankle, you've recovered and you're up and running at 30, 40 miles an hour again on the pitch. But that's one thing we love and hate about sports. But man, you know how to get them going and stuff. I'll give
Always
you that
stirring
much.
the
I'll
pot.
give you cred. Yeah,
Always stirring the pot. All it
sometimes.
takes is one tweet. All it takes is one tweet to get people going. Carm, I used to use that spray you're talking about actually when I played volleyball, and the medical trainer would get mad at me because even though you were joking around about that, it works wonders. But it's really bad for you because, of course, you can still sustain an injury or make your injury worse, but you just don't feel anything. You're freezing your ankle completely. But I think it's a really good segue. You talk about those tweets that I made because I do want to take this time to kind of just say what I've kind of been talking about this Golden Knights team, and I've been joking around with the salary cap and that stuff. But one thing I really wanted to say just before we start the show and go into the matchup here about this Golden Knights team, the more I looked back at it, I was looking at all the trades that they made. I looked yesterday at the team the Vegas Golden Knights initially drafted in the expansion draft. And a lot of the players on that initial team, you can't even find them in the National Hockey League anymore. You'll find them overseas or not even playing hockey. So I always was taking shots at the Golden Knights GM for making these big, I would call them video game style trades, because I thought that, that might just hurt the franchise. And then if they don't win over the next few years, well, they're screwed because they have no draft picks, so on and so forth. But if you make the Western Conference Finals multiple times, the Stanley Cup Finals twice, why do the draft picks matter? And a lot of studies and research have come out saying that, if you have a pick past, like late in the second round, third round, a lot of those players don't even play over 100 NHL games. So why not go for it? So I do have to tip my hat to the NHL, the GM of the Golden Knights, for how aggressive and the entire management core has been from the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, look at what they did to get Jack Eichel and all of those guys. So I got to tip my hat, because it's one thing to make all these big trades, but it's one thing to make all these big trades and for it to consistently pay off. Who needs draft picks, Carmine, when you're actually going that deep? So any thoughts on
Well,
that? And then we'll dive into today's game.
it's yeah. No, listen, I get it. They built a team, and you look at the last couple drafts when Seattle came in. They couldn't do it the same way as Vegas did in their initial draft. I think a lot of teams learned from what happened in that first expansion draft with the Vegas Golden Knights, and a lot of teams made deals with Seattle. Don't draft this guy, or we'll leave this guy unprotected. And still, the Seattle Kraken found some good players. Um, they picked up one from Toronto. I can't remember what his name was. Andrew, you'll probably remember or know what his name is, but I think he scored 40 goals for them. Was it McCann? McCann from Toronto. I think they picked him up from Toronto.
I think
Toronto
so.
left him unprotected, and he scored something like 40 goals. So you can still find players, but kudos to them. But this always comes back to full circle, which is um, teams with good coaches. Bruce Cassidy, a good coach, and he got Vegas to buy into what he wants. And for the same thing, I was on Paul Maurice all season long, Andrew. I didn't like him because I liked the style of play that Florida played last year in scoring goals, but it was unsustainable. We saw it in the playoffs. It didn't work. You can't, the regular season does not translate into what happens in the playoffs. And he finally got the team to buy into playing some really good defense for the last 2-3 weeks of the regular season, even probably even more, and then the playoffs. But they've just, it seems like they've just either A, run out of steam, or just B, run into a team that is better than them. Vegas is doing to them what they did to Toronto, to Carolina, and to eventually the Boston Bruins after they fell behind 3 games to 1 in that series. So this comes down to coaching. There are some good coaches, but you look at where some teams fail, and it's in the coaching. And this isn't me trolling the people from the city that I live near, but I don't like their coach. You look at a coach like, he was out there, but now he's the GM of Nashville, which is Barry Trotz. The guy is a good coach. He took a team to the Stanley Cup and won. He took some teams that didn't have scorers and led them deep into the playoffs. This is a guy who could get the most out of his team, and now he's a GM at Nashville. And while he's not part of the draft, I think he'll be. I don't even think he's allowed at the draft table. I think Bill Poley, their current GM, has to finish the draft for them. But it'll be interesting to see how he molds the Nashville Predators to the kind of team that he likes to see on the ice. But this is the thing; it comes down to coaching, and the Vegas Golden Knights are winning that battle as well too. I got trolled. I don't know. I think I got trolled in the comment section after game one or before game one of the Stanley Cup playoffs, of the Stanley Cup finals, because I said in this series that I gave the advantage of the forwards to the Vegas Golden Knights. I gave the advantage of the defense to the Vegas Golden Knights, but I gave the goaltending to Florida with Bobrovsky. And some guy just chirped me saying, do you know how many 40 goal scorers there are on Florida? And, they're the better offensive team. Well, the regular season is not the playoffs. And those guys who scored 40 plus goals haven't performed, Andrew, in the playoffs thus far. It's the playoffs and the regular season are different beasts. You play to get there,
Absolutely.
and then the best team wins, I think.
Absolutely. And when you become such a defensive team in the playoffs like Florida have been, it also takes away from some of your offense. So let's bring up the numbers for today's game. I am seeing some 5.5s out there, but there also are some 6s. So depending on what you like, make sure you guys look around. We're seeing plus 155 for the road dogs here, the Panthers, minus 185 for Vegas, the team trying to close things out at home. And guys, if you're interested, the price for the draw for this game to go to overtime, I'm seeing plus 320 average price around most sports books as far as that is concerned. Carm, you look at what happened yesterday in the NBA Finals. It's a very similar situation at hand tonight. Obviously, both Florida teams facing elimination on the road in Game 5. Both those teams happen to be 8 seeds. And you look at the pathway to get here, and I just wanted to say the message I have for everybody complaining about the Stanley Cup Finals or the NBA Finals: do not blame the Panthers or the Miami Heat. Blame the Celtics. Blame the Hurricanes. Blame the Leafs. Blame the Bruins. Do not blame these teams that made it there. They don't care. They made it here. Even if they both lose in 5 games, they made the Stanley Cup Finals. So I don't want to hear anybody telling me Boston would have put up a better fight. The Leafs would have had a better fight, because guess what? They didn't make it here. So, that stuff really bugs me when people say this has been the worst Stanley Cup Finals ever. Well, you know what? Maybe one of those other teams should have defeated the Florida Panthers, because I saw a team blow a lead, a team lose in 5, and a team get swept. So the Florida Panthers, they deserve to be here where they are right now, Carm. But Vegas at minus 185, and taking a look at that last game, it was dead even from what I saw as far as, a lot of the analytical stuff goes, a lot of the stat numbers goes. It's kind of like what you mentioned about the Golden Knights. They just have the ability to finish off their plays. They turn a really good save from Adin Hill into a goal. They score in transition all the time. And realistically, like you said, they stay out of the box and they'll make you pay when they get those power play opportunities. But I'll continue to stand on this. I feel, good about the fact that I mentioned Mark Gisso on the show to win the Conn Smythe trophies, now minus 400. But I'll continue to say, if there were more low-scoring games in this series, Adin Hill would be talked about a hell of a lot more. And I'm happy you've talked about him quite a bit, Carm. But when I look at this Florida and Vegas Game 5, I see that 3-2 has become the common score here. I mean, the total has been just buzzing around 5.5 throughout the entire series. Something tells me this one goes over. I've been talking about it for a couple of years now on Puck Time, since you and I started hosting the show together. That I really think that these elimination games, I think they've kind of veered away from low-scoring hockey. I think that it's not as much tight checking. I know that Florida wants to play in one of those style of games, but let's not forget what Vegas did when they closed it out against the Dallas Stars. Let's not forget how high-scoring these first periods have been. Over now 2.5, 3 weeks for the Vegas Golden Knights, lots of their games in the first period, we've both talked about it, have gone over 1.5 goals. So why in an elimination game, off a game where the first period didn't go over, do we expect this one to be super tight checking? I do not think the Florida Panthers can sit back and try and win this game 1-0 or 2-1. They have to take it to Vegas, try and get that first goal, and keep their foot on the gas pedal. I know that you talk about Paul Maurice and his coaching style, and I agree with you. That's definitely led to their success, to how they've gotten to where they are today. But when I look at this total at 5.5, I like that quite a bit. And I'm going to stay away from the 1.5 first period and ride the full game over tonight, Carm. What do you have for us?
Yeah, Andrew, we talked about on the show, I think it was prior to Game 3, about the odds that were out on like the gentleman's sweep that you love to mention. And it was Vegas plus 240 to win 4-1. And so you could be sitting on a ticket, and I'm kicking myself because I should have played it. But dumb Carm did not play, because I would be sitting with Vegas at plus 240 tonight, as opposed to having to lay $1.85 if you wanted Vegas tonight. Like, I'm not going to lay $1.85. I think Vegas is going to win the game, but the vig is set because Vegas can clinch it on home ice. It sounds like the greatest thing that can happen, kind of like Denver yesterday as well too. And everyone's expecting it to happen. But we've had some close games. The only problem is the first couple of games in the series haven't been close. The last couple have. The first two were essentially blowouts from the third period of game one onwards in game two, where they really ramped the score. But Vegas has been in this position before, and they were a big price coming home for game five, looking to put it away against the Dallas Stars and lost the game at home 4-2. That sits in the back of my mind when I think about laying a buck 85. I'm not saying take Florida by any means or any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying I'm not going to lay $1.85. If you guys want to, that's on you guys. I haven't played these 185, 190s all season long. I'm not prepared to do it in the last game of the season, but this is Vegas's game to lose. We don't even know if has there been any news released on whether Matthew Tkachuk is even playing tonight, because he's listed as questionable on some of the sites, and I haven't seen any as of this morning any news of whether he's going to be in the lineup or not. So then you take another tool away from this Florida team, and it makes it even harder for them. Yeah, to bring out the old Don Buster first period play, you look at the first period, and I get it, Vegas is about minus 150 to win the first period. You could take that on the two-way money line. Or if you like the plus money, you could take Vegas first period minus a half a goal plus 160. That's not bad odds there if you think and you truly subscribe to the theory that Vegas is going to come out tonight, dominate from the first period onwards. Then if you think they're going to have the lead at the end of the first period, that's the only plus money play really available on the Vegas Golden Knights, unless you take the puck line on them, which I think the puck line is plus money at plus 150. And, down 3 goals, down 2 goals, that goalie Bobrovsky is going to be out of the net. If this is the case, he's going to be out of the net with about 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. It doesn't matter if you lose by 3, 4, or 5 goals. He's going to be, they're going to have the extra attacker on. But before we even get there, I think it's Vegas's game to lose. I would take that first period play, Andrew. And it's funny because you can look at some of the books have exact scores for the first period. So if you do like Vegas, the 2-0 Vegas and 2-1 Vegas are like plus 950 and plus 1200 on 2-1 Vegas at the end of the first period. If you subscribe to the theory as well that there's going to be a high scoring game, and it very well could be, like the first 2 games were high scoring, 5-2, and what was the second game, 7-2 or something like that, then we're going to see some goals tonight. So I wouldn't mind throwing a slice of pizza on 2-1 and 2-0 Vegas at the end of the first.
Come on, Carm. Don't do it to me again, man. Don't make me have to go buy a slice of pizza after this show. I don't need any pizza talk right now. I like it, and I like where you're going with that. And I'm interested in looking at the props, and I'll tell you what, unless Kachuk's hand or leg is falling off right now, I think he'll be in the lineup. This is a guy that I think they're not going to, unless it's a really serious. I think that it was a maintenance thing for him yesterday, not being in practice. There's a lot of stuff that gets made out of, a player missing practice or sitting out. Yeah. What does he need to practice right now? What does he need to be there working on? He needs to rest, So I think he'll be out there. I wanted to mention this just to kind of go over things. And I think that you talked about that minus 185, how you don't like that price. And I understand, even though it's the last game of the year, we practice that bankroll management. If it's not something you've done all year, you don't want to do it today. Which is why I'll bring up the plus 110 I'm seeing on the over 3.5 team total goals for the Vegas Golden Knights. Look at a lot of the games they've been successful this playoffs. They have been able to reach that 4-goal mark. And if you do expect them to be up, let's say 3-2, you can probably rely on an empty net goal as well to get in there. Now, the other side of things for the Florida Panthers, their team total is set at 2.5 to the over at minus 130. So as I say a lot of times, you could take that over 2.5 to the minus 130. And if they lose the game 4-3 or 5-3, you still cash that ticket. But is that worth it to take away that plus 155? That's up to you guys to decide. But I just wanted to mention those team totals because I truly believe if somebody likes Vegas and you don't want to lay that minus 185, you could look at the team total there at over 3.5 team total goals. I'm not going to lie. I might have a little sprinkle, though, on the draw at plus 325, plus 320 in this one. I think it's tempting, and these games have been tight. There haven't been too many blowouts in the past few games, so I will look towards that. But I'm excited. I love how you mentioned it's going to be a Super Bowl style game for you, keeping it light, managing the bankroll, but dipping your toes into some of these prop bets and things like that. And the save props, Carm, we can look at those as well. And I'll have one to mention when I talk about the charity challenge. But
Yeah.
I was going to ask you today about Conn Smythe odds, but there's nothing we could look at because Marchessault is minus 400. So anything else you wanted to mention about the game before we jump into our two plays?
Yeah, it's, you know what I mean? Like, I like this is one of those ones, Andrew, and it all comes back to what you think is going to happen. So it's all about narratives, and you can get narratives wrong. And I'll use myself, because I love using myself as an example, because I always call it, I love this show because other than going on social media and splattering it all out there, we can have a conversation about it. And narratives, when you think of a narrative, you can get it right but wrong at the same time. Yeah, and a perfect example is on the weekend, the Champions League game. I thought there's no way Man City is going to lose the game. I thought it would, once they got the first one, they would get a second one and possibly a third one. And a lot of my prop bets were based on that. I do the same thing for the Super Bowl, and it's always successful for the Super Bowl. It's been successful for Champions League in the past. It wasn't this past weekend. They win the game, but one of the teams just wanted to play defense all game and defend all games. So a lot of what you expected to happen just didn't happen. So those are the narratives. So getting back to switching sports to this, the narrative is, if you believe the Vegas Golden Knights are going to win tonight, if you believe that they are going to they're going to nail the final nail in the coffin is they come out and they do what they did in like game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, where they beat them 7-2, then you play props that go with it, shots props, the team total props, first period props. You can play a lot of them. The game going over the total, the puck line minus 1.5. But what happens if Vegas wins this game 2-1 in overtime, right? So they still win the cup. They don't care what the final score was. They're hoisting the cup. They're pouring those 17 beers into it to fill it up. And puck time is done for the season. I don't know what to tell you, Andrew. I just look at this game, and my narrative is that I'm not going to lay a $1.85, but Vegas is the right side, because I don't know how you can come up with a point to say that Florida is the right side. Can you give me, Andrew, can you honestly give me, and it's a yes or no question, can you give me 3 reasons why the Florida Panthers win tonight? Or even 2, or even 1?
I couldn't give you 3, maybe 2. Well, I mean, look, the number one reason would have been Bobrovsky, but as I keep talking about, Adin Hill has outperformed Bobrovsky. The other reason would be Tkachuk continues to be clutch, but apparently the guy is injured and not doing very well. And another reason would have been the power play, but this is the worst stretch of the entire year for the Florida Panthers as far as execution on the power play. What worse of a time could they have, this happened to them than right here in the Stanley Cup Finals, Carm? So you're right. But guess what? I was listening to Sports Grade yesterday, and they were talking about pretty much saying, do you guys, anybody see a world where the Miami Heat wins and Cam Stewart, our good buddy, says, well, they are professionals. Anything could happen. So it's true. These guys are professionals. Florida could win, but I think we all realized that game that Florida won, they needed to do a late comeback, win the game in overtime. And even last game, the finish is 3-2. The better team was squeaking them out. And let's not forget how Florida was winning their games, right? Think about every game they won when they swept the Carolina Hurricanes. Tight game, 1-goal game, very close. Against the Leafs, How many of those were blowouts? Not that many. They were just the better team by a couple inches. And right now, that's
Yeah.
the Vegas Golden Knights. So I want to make it very clear, and not like anybody cares if we're respecting or disrespecting a team, Carm. But I have all the respect in the world for this Panthers team. If they go down and the gentlemen sweep, I still think they played good hockey throughout this series.
No, listen, they're at the end of the day. Listen, if they lose tonight, and I'll tell you right now, I'm cheering for it to go to 6 games, to go back to Florida, so we can do another show. We can talk and have all the guys in the chat and get a little bit more hockey, because basketball's over. It's just baseball kind of left right now. It would be great to see another hockey game, but uh, it's going to sting for Florida if they lose tonight. But when they look back at this playoff run, it was a playoff run and a very good one to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. You still hate losing. Nobody wants to be number 2. If it's the Ricky Bobby thing, if you're not first, you're last, right? So it is. Well, to use that old adage, it is what it is. But it's going to sting. But for for them to win tonight, they're going to have to play their best game of the series. And even game 3 that they won 3-2 wasn't their best game of the series. It was, you could say it was their luckiest game of the series, because they got a goal with a couple of minutes left to send it to OT with an empty net right in front of Matthew Tkachuk, and he puts it in and sends it to OT, and then they win the game. So Vegas is pretty much dominated in the other games. So either it's Vegas's game to lose. And I'm not sure if that happens tonight, but if it does happen, we get a game 6. I'd be great about that. That would be great to see. Andrew, let's get into the charity challenge. What do you say?
Real quick, Carm. I apologize
Yes.
to interrupt you there, Carm. Sorry. I just want to read something.
I do it all season long.
This is a DM from Twitter here. We have Nick saying that he has a parlay to close out tonight to win 450 with Vegas on the money line. What would you do here if you're him? Are you letting it ride? Of course, it's always depending on everyone's situation, how much they bet, how often they do these. But obviously, at the price that you're getting the Florida Panthers, is it clear to just say to Nick, hey, put a quarter unit on the Florida Panthers and guarantee yourself some money? Or what are you looking at if you're in his position today?
Yeah, one thing, because I do a lot of futures, and I've hit some really big ones at WagerTalk, and I always talk to my clients about it, about hedging out. The thing with hedging out is you can't have remorse when you do it. So, and by that I mean, if you hedge out a play for an even profit both ways, if your initial bet wins, you can't have the mindset that you say to yourself, man, I should have never done that. What you need to do is take a step back and say to yourself, before you put that hedge in, if I stick with my play and it loses, how am I going to feel tomorrow? Was it not life-changing money, but is it money that I really could have used had I hedged it out? And if your answer before the game starts is that, yes, you would feel pretty crappy about not hedging out, then you hedge out, because that is how you're going to feel the next day. Don't have remorse because you hedged and the original bet won. But to your point, Andrew, sometimes I'll tell clients and I'll tell them what you can do at the very least, if you want a free roll, is like you said, bet enough on the other side at plus money that you cover your initial wager, and you're none the worse the next day, but you're free rolling on a bigger play if your original bet comes in. So hopefully that makes sense if you're watching it, but doing a lot of them. And, I've had, Real Madrid 20-1 and 33-1 in the same Champions League after they lost the first leg. Chelsea 20-1. So I've talked to a lot, Italy in the Euros 12-1. I've talked to a lot of people about what they should and shouldn't do. You know what I mean? On hedging and stuff. And it's just this past weekend, Casper Ruud in the in the finals of the French Open, 16-1 in the finals. Djokovic was minus 450. Some places had a minus 415. Very tough to hedge. You can put a small hedge in and still make money on it by taking by covering your liability. but that's one of the ones where you just cover your liability and you ride out and hope for a bit of a miracle, food poisoning by Novak Djokovic or something like that, where you can get the win. But my futures at Wager Talk are almost always at 10 to 1 or higher, uh, in, that I know can make it to a semifinal of an event, to give my clients an opportunity to make money, because I'll update the play with hedge possibilities and leave the decision up to them.
Great answer. And hey, Nick, let's get you some money tonight. That's all I have to say. Make sure you're making some money tonight. You put yourself in a very good position. So, jumping into the charity challenge, and Carm, just briefly jump into yours, but let people know what you were telling me before the show starts. I think we're going to bring back the charity challenge next year.
Yeah, so here's the plan. There's going to be some changes to puck time next year. Some subtle changes, but we have a lot of guys at Wager Talk that do hockey. Some very knowledgeable ones. I like to get some feedback from them as well too on the shows. So we'll be doing a bit of tweaking to it. You guys will still love the format, and we're going to start something similar to this charity challenge at the beginning of the year. But what I want to do is stress throughout the whole season the Wager Talk philosophy of 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. And those are the type of plays that we are going to release, having a full season and just hundreds and hundreds of games that we can release these plays on, to show you that proper bankroll management does work, and that you can go through a run where you have 2 bad weeks and it does not annihilate your bankroll. So this is going to be a prime example of how we can do it and show it to you guys, and hopefully have a great season and you can follow along. I think bankroll management is very important, and we hope to show it throughout the course of a full season, as opposed to a shortened and condensed playoff season. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys, and that's where I wanted to go with that. Now, as far as the charity challenge, um, we're not seeing any shots on goal props for Matthew Tkachuk, so I'm not sure if he's going to be in or out. That It'll probably be a game time decision. They're not going to say anything. Someone's going to have to get the shots on goal for Florida. And Barkov did hit his number in the last game. I had him in game 4. I'm going to take him again in game 5. His shot total is over 2.5 shots on goal, and it's at minus 140. And that's going to be my charity challenge play for today's show. Andrew?
I'm going to look at the goalie saves market here, and although he has not hit this too often throughout this series, I'm going to go right back to the guy that brought the Florida Panthers to where they are today. Although I expect some goals in the game tonight, I do expect Sergei Bobrovsky to have a big night for the Florida Panthers. This is a Vegas Golden Knights team that's built off vets, players that have played in these big games before, but of course, lots of players that are looking for their first Stanley Cup ring. And the reason why I bring that up is because they will look to keep things simple, get pucks on net, try and make things happen. And I'm hoping a lot of those pucks are easy saves, puck freezing type of saves. And Bobrovsky can get those numbers up early in the first period, get me, 12, 13 saves to start this game off and put us in a good spot. I like Bobrovsky tonight over 28.5 saves. The Florida Panthers go as Bobrovsky goes. And if they have any shot at having a good game tonight, they will need him to be on his game. So I'll go over 28.5 saves for Sergei Bobrovsky, goaltender from the Florida Panthers. Jumping into best bets, Carm. This could be the last best bet segment of the season for us. What do you have for us?
Yeah, the tiers are there, Andrew. The tiers are there. Listen, 4 plays up in for tonight's game. A series of props and stuff like that as well too. So you can get those over at Wager Talk. There's a best bet included in there, 4% play, which I was going to make it a 5% play, but we're going to keep it at 4. So you get those over at Wager Talk, and I'm going to have some Nations League soccer semifinals coming up tomorrow and on Wednesday. Croatia and Netherlands, Italy and Spain over the next couple of days. So there'll be some plays up there as well too. Andrew, as far as my show best bet, I'm going to go with a points prop. I've been doing a couple of these with some success, and I'm going to take, at least in the Cup Finals, it's been successful, and I'm going to take Sam Bennett of Florida. Yes, of Florida. I'm looking at again where the scoring is going to come from, and Bennett has been pretty good in these playoffs in scoring. He's got points in 2 of these 4 games. And overall in the playoffs, I think he's only had, I think it is only 6 games where he has not scored in the playoffs, 6 or 7 games where he's not registered a point. So he's been pretty consistent on getting a point. He'll be on the power play as well, too, should they get any power plays tonight. But Sam Bennett, over a half a point, so him to register at least a point, and that's minus 135 as my show best bet. Before I throw to you, Andrew, I'm just going to answer someone's question in our chat. Bruno, who's in Europe, is asking, he doesn't want to bet on tonight's game. He just wants to know who to bet on the Cup. Bruno, the series is now 3-1 for Vegas. If you're betting Vegas to win the Cup, they're minus 1,400. It's unbettable. If you're taking Vegas, you could take Vegas if you want to win the Cup, but they're going to have to win 3 straight games, and they're only plus 850. You're pretty much better
Florida.
off with a rolling parlay on Vegas to win games 5, 6, and 7. I don't think that's going to happen. Just bet tonight's game or just pass on it completely. Andrew, what do you have up at Wager Talk? And give us your show best bet.
Yeah, plays as well as you mentioned. It's a great night to make some props. So no real big plays for me going tonight in the NHL, but a handful of smaller plays that hopefully can add up to a good night. Also, the CFL season is here. I was very close to a 3-1 week 1, but we did settle for the 2-2. But we do have our second episode of 2 and Out, hosted by Mr. Carmine. That'll be tomorrow. We cashed the free play best bet last week, so I do encourage you guys to check the show out tomorrow. And I do have a promo code going right now, AM7. That gets you 7 days all access for $69 every single sport, every play that I release, $30 off an all access pass. I'm doing MLB. We've got NHL. We've got UFC. I believe for the next 15 weeks, we have UFC events. So I really cannot wait. But if you want to get your toes wet, use that promo code AM7. For my best bet, I'm going to go with a player point prop as well. Ivan Barbashev, someone that's had an unbelievable playoffs for the Vegas Golden Knights. I think he's on one of the best contracts in the league, especially for how well he's played. He's not afraid to be physical, score goals in the dirty areas, but he's also a great playmaker. He went 4 straight games by getting at least a point, and the past 2 games, he's disappeared a little bit. I do think he will step up and make a big play tonight for the Vegas Golden Knights. We can get a great price on him. I'll take Barbashev to record a point tonight for the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, he's been there and done that, winning a Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues. He'll be looking for one more Stanley Cup tonight if the Golden Knights come out on top. Guys, on behalf of Carmine and, of course, myself, I just want to say thank you for watching all season long here on Puck Time. We really appreciate it. Everyone behind the scenes as well here at Wager Talk that helps us make this a great show that it is. And all of our guests that came on from WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com, that really came on and made this show what it was. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If this is the last show, we appreciate you. And if not, we'll see you next time.
Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Father's Day. Why not treat yourself to a Father's Day gift that keeps giving? The second half of the MLB season will sell for $565, but if you sign up before this special $449 offer that expires on Tuesday, June 20th, not only will you save money, but we'll throw in the 3 weeks leading up to the All-Star break for free. That comes out to around $3 per day for every MLB play from now through the final game of the World Series in November from your favorite Wager Talk handicapper, including any 5% rare best bets.